So my goal here is to show you how to set up a student survey or just a form in general in Microsoft Excel. So that's basically what this video is going to be about. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure my developer tab is on. Remember, I went to File, right? Down to Options, Customize Ribbon. Developer gets checked in that little checkbox, and then I click OK. Everybody with me? I know, it's hard to keep your hands off the mouse. I know, it's kind of fun when you can do this. I think so. All right, don't forget to save often. Now, first thing you want to do, and I don't want you to get too crazy with it. Like me, I get a little carried away, I think. I'm going to use some shapes, and the reason why, I want this to look attractive. I want to put, and it doesn't have to look like mine. I want to insert shapes. Now, you see all these different rectangles? Some have rounded corners, some do not. Again, you don't have to do this if you think this is a bit much. It's fine, I get it. Now, under the Drawing Tools tab, if you're looking at my screen, and you'll have a chance to really play with this, I'm going to get rid of the shape fill. I'm going to say, okay, no fill. Shape outline is going to be like a green color. I'm going for the Excel theme, okay? So, all right, so I'm going to bring this out like this. And now I'm going to save it. So again, if shapes are like messing you up, if it's like not your thing because you're not really into the graphics, I get it. You know, you don't have to worry about that just yet. So I'm going to click a blank area. Now, if you want to just kind of sit and watch, and then when I say, okay, now you're going to have some time to play around with this, you can do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is come up, and I didn't bring this tab here for nothing. So I'm going to go up to the Developer tab. Now, there's a lot of stuff on that tab that you may or may not be familiar with. One of the things that really stand out to me is that last button, Document Panel, and then moving to the left, I've got the controls. You can see all the different controls like properties and whatnot. So if you're looking at my screen, this button here looks like a briefcase with tools like a hammer, right, and a wrench. And see how you have all these different gadgets, all these different icons, all these different form controls and the ActiveX controls. So if I'm looking at under like form controls, there's, again, they all have names. So if you roll your mouse over each over each button, you'll see the name of it. All right. So get to know their names. Now this button here, that's called Label. And this is what we call a group box. Now this gets pretty interesting. I'm going to have you look at this screen for a minute. See this button here under Form Controls? It's in the first column, second row. It's called Group Box. So I'm going to click on that. My mouse looks like a what? Yep, plus sign. Some people call it a crosshair. So I'm going to find the intersection of grid lines, which is why I'm glad I didn't turn them off. And I'm going to draw it out. We're not going for perfection, so if it doesn't look exactly like mine, it's fine. I'm all about the concept, not about if mine is purple and yours isn't, okay? Now, you notice the name there, Group Box 1. You don't have to leave that there like that. You don't really need it. I mean, if you want, you can edit its name like I'm doing. And I'm just going to put in here a real simple thing, gender. And then I might want to resize this a little bit, okay? See the sizing handles? So you can always resize it. Now, here's the deal. Under this Insert tab is a button known as Option button. Looks like a radio button. And that's appropriate for gender, right? Female or male. So I'm going to click on that. And look, I'm going to draw it out. And see what it did? All right, so what does that say? You can barely read it, but it says Option. All right, now I'm going to draw out, whoops, that was a mistake. I'm going to draw out another one. Another Option button there. I'm just going to put that right there. So basically what I got to do, and sometimes I have trouble with this, I right click it. I just want to get to the point where I can change its name. Is this easy to do? No, not all the time. Do you want me to lie or tell you the truth? I'd rather tell you the truth. So you got to kind of like click in there, and then I usually just hit delete or backspace. Whoops, I went too far. I hit too many times. And you might have to zoom in too. It might be really just a matter of zooming in. All right, let me see here. What did I do? Oh, here's a little secret. Look, if you right-click on it, see where it says Edit Text? There you go. There's a plan. Now, what are we going to say? This is going to be male. Again, you got to resize this. Otherwise, you're never going to see the whole thing. See? And, again, right-clicking is easier, I think. All right, and I'll put in there female. Yeah, but you do what you have to do. See? Now look, when you select it, it's either one or the other. See that? Pretty cool. And then it gets a little tricky. Sometimes I just right-click. And then if I have to, I can move this guy up a little bit. But you have a lot of, you know, form controls here. You know, you could definitely use them to your advantage. The group box, I think, is kind of nice. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think it's all right, you know. Looks more organized, I guess you can say. But if you don't use that, remember, at some point, you're going to hide those grid lines. So ultimately, that's what it's going to look like when it's done. Okay? So I'm going to go onto the internet real quick. So I want to find an example forms in Excel. Don't you just love Google? It is. I'm going to see if I can find an image. And there's so many different ways that they do it. I think some people do it the hard way, the long way. I guess that's a pretty good example, but that's kind of fuzzy, isn't it? Ah, much better. Someone had a lot of time. That one looks terrible. That's all right. Now, Microsoft Access is known for forms. You know, it's amazing how in Access you start out with a table. Like in Excel, you start with a spreadsheet. Forms are derived from Access tables. So instead of looking at all records in a table, one record at a time in a form. So with Excel, it's a little bit different, but even still, you know, this kind of gives you an idea. You know, and you can, you know, use it just to have them fill out. And then they could print it and then mail it in or email it or convert it to a PDF. You know, it just kind of gives you an idea. But what's even amazing about this, as I was saying earlier, you know, Excel forms. There's a lot of videos on this too. But there's so many different types of forms. Now, this one particular video I think is really cool because he focuses on a lot of different form controls, you know, more than I did just a few minutes ago. And I've seen this video before, and he's actually really good at this stuff. But there's so many different types of forms, you know, out there. Let me just pause his video. So just kind of like getting back to ours. Now, if you want, you can hide those grid lines. I mean, personally, I don't really need them. I know where my cell selector is because I'm looking right at it. But if you want to practice, like if you want to like start from scratch, if you want to start over again, or if you just want to continue where you are, I think it would be a great time for you to really just kind of sit and play, you know, set it up your own form. Like the other controls that you're going to see in here, under form control, you got labels, right? You got that. And then you have this one, list box. You know, if you're asking them like multiple, you know, questions. So there's a lot of stuff in here. Drop down menus, just to name a few. So if I go into like this button here, and this one was right under form controls, it's called label. So I don't know, I might put over here, see if I can type in there. I might, whoops, that was a mistake. I clicked everything. I keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. That sounds like the definition of insanity. So I'm going to put in here full name. Now, if you're a Microsoft Word, you know, guru, if you are really good at Word, I'll be honest, you could probably get the forms done 10 times faster in Word. I mean, look at it this way. At least with Word, you can set up a table. Like here, you got the spreadsheet. But if you're still finding this a bit, you know, tricky, Microsoft Word would be a great alternative if that works for you. The only thing is, though, Word is very limited when it comes down to calculation work. So you can sum and do subtraction in word tables, but that's all. So this is just another thing I just added. And this element can be moved. This group control. So I'm just going to move that whole thing off to the side. Whoops, I thought I grabbed everything. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But that's all right. I can take it one step at a time. If I can try, I'll do it again. Having a hard time getting that thing to select. It kind of gives you an idea. Oh, there we go. So I'll move that over there. And then these act, even though they're separate objects, they act as a group, which is very interesting. So I'm just going to cut and paste. That's another way to do it. And hey, I'm all for it. If you know a faster way, a better way, please tell us all. So I'm going to cut that. I'm going to paste it. Copy, steal, cheat, borrow. You call it whatever you want. I call it just fine. So how likely are you to use forms in Office documents, Word, Excel, anybody? I mean, you could turn your, you know, your forms, and I think I kind of messed this up from moving it so much. See how it's got both selected now? So yeah, one thing I'd say is just be careful with moving this a lot. As you can see, I kind of messed that up. So what I would have to do normally, I'd have to just delete it and just redraw one. If it's just not worth trying to debug it and, you know, trying to, you know, figure that out. So the best thing I could tell you, if you're going to set up forms, try it in Excel first, you know, see how you feel. And if it doesn't jive with you, if you're, you know, spending countless hours, you might want to give Word a chance. Word might be the better route to go. It depends, you know, on what you're trying to do. You're going to hit certain limitations in every application anyway, but at least you can learn which ones give you the most problems. But there's definitely some other options here, like the combo box is another form control, the combo box under form controls. And this one is pretty neat. Now that looks kind of big, don't you think, for this form? Or is that for like idiot proof? So we'll put him over there. Now check this out. Does everybody see the properties button up here? So I have this combo box tool selected. I'm coming up here to properties. And then you have all these different options. Like, see how it says like drop down lines. It's set to 8. And then they give you these other options here. So I'm going to click cancel on that. So some things require properties. Now, let me go back up here again. All right, combo box, active X. It looks different. Looks more modern. So let's see, properties. Oh, wow. There's a lot of properties for that. That's pretty big. But again, I can come up here to properties. And there's everything I need in there. Wow. From border colors to background colors. I mean, the list just goes on and on. But this is just a brief, you know, intro to forms and their tools, their controls in Excel. But like I said, a lot of people use Word. Those who are more comfortable in Excel might consider, you know, setting up forms. So I'm not going to do a whole lot more with this other than just tell you that you can set up these forms, and then that way you have them in Excel. And then if you're updating, it makes it easier. Because the problem with PDF is that it's a picture. You can't edit it. And if you have the original file still floating around, then you're good to go. So any comments, any thoughts on, forms?